This is the Tri-State Time Machine, brought to you by Alex R. White, PLLC, at SueDistractedDriver.com. Each week, your host, Vanessa Hankins, and her guests share memories and stories about the past, the present, and the future of the Tri-State area. That's West Virginia, Kentucky, and the Ohio areas. If you used to live here, or you currently live here, you're going to catch yourself saying out loud, "Wow, I remember that." Now, here's Vanessa.
This episode's going to be a tad different than what you guys are used to. Today, we're putting a spin on life in Huntington, and we are talking and having fun with February being known for Valentine's Day and all things love. Our guests are going to share with us stories on dating in this modern world. So with that, I welcome you to the show, and I welcome our guests as well. Amy and Ben, welcome to Tri-State Time Machine. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm sorry I have you guys out so early. For those listening at home, it's 8:30 in the morning, and we're here recording because our schedules were conflicting. We all work different hours, so we're here at the crack of dawn, jumping right in. I'm going to let you guys, Ben, I'll let you go first. Introduce yourself, a little bit about what you do and your background.
Okay. My name's Ben Wheeler. I'm a Huntington resident. I grew up in Wayne County in Westmoreland, went to Spring Valley, and Marshall. I graduated in Marshall a few years ago.
So you're like full throttle a local. You've done all the things local.
I was going to say, I work at WSAZ, and a lot of people there aren't from Huntington.
I noticed that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a group of different areas. There's a lot of Pittsburgh people there.
I've noticed that too. We, not to interrupt you and like go on a tangent here, but we were in a meeting for leadership that was held at WSAZ, and I was astounded at the amount of people that were not local working there, and a lot of them were from Pittsburgh. I thought that was crazy.
Yeah, it's nice where so I'm a cameraman, kind of. I do photo journalism there, and a lot of my stuff is going out with reporters, and most of them aren't from here. And they're like, "Oh, well, you're from Huntington, so you can tell me where to go or where's a good spot to set up." So
right.
Being from around here is nice because you kind of get a whole idea of what's going on in the city.
For sure.
And working at a job like that where so many people kind of look for what you're doing and
yes.
your news, it's nice to kind of learn from what you're doing as well as giving out to other people. So
right.
That's just a little bit about me. I also do photography on the side. I haven't had a chance.
Well, I was going to say, I was creeping on you day before yesterday, preparing for the episode, and you have some really great photographs. Like you've got a real good skill set.
I love taking photos. To me, if I can capture a memory for somebody, they can have that forever.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like, oh, that's awesome. And it's just another way to connect with people. And, it kind of helped me with my job. It's a little weird because doing photos, it's just stills.
Right.
And I go to WSAZ and it's fully video.
Right.
It's like I have this whole gap that I need to fill. But yeah, with my schedule where we're meeting so early, I don't have the time to go out and do those shoots because a lot of it's during the evening.
Right, when the sun's setting.
Yeah, and I'm working.
Right,
so
I get that.
My window's small, but I still like to do it. So
well, it's important to have hobbies. I think, and especially if you can be successful at those hobbies, I think that is human nature that brings us joy that we can't get from anyone else besides ourselves. So that interests about Amy Jo. I was just telling Amy, like when I write down her name, I always say Amy, and now I'm doing it on purpose because my head is playing mind tricks on me. But this is Amy Jo, and I'm going to have her introduce herself. Goodness.
Good morning. My name is Amy Stowasser. I do go by Amy Jo mostly, especially casually. Professionally, I stick with Amy for the most part. I am 49 years old. I am a tri-state native. I've grown up pretty much in Cabell and Wayne counties all my life. I am a victim advocate at a nonprofit, and I work in the town of Wayne and cover the entire county of Wayne, which is huge.
Which is massive. Yeah.
Massive. That's how I met you.
Yes, that is how we met. I was working in the nonprofit world, and she was a shining star and a beacon of, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. So thankful for that when we met that day.
It goes both ways.
I love that. All right. So we've got two different vantage points here of the things we're going to talk about. Ben, did you say how old you were?
No, but
okay.
I am 24.
24. And Ben is newly in a relationship? Is it new? Is it fresh?
Tomorrow is 3 months.
Okay, so it's fairly new. Yeah.
fairly new.
So you were doing the dating up until meeting your significant other, and we'll talk about how that went and all that. And then Amy Jo, we were just talking before we started recording. You've been divorced. I've been divorced. And then you had a long-term relationship that ended prior to marriage that you probably thought was going to be the long term. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But the main thing we want to talk about here is dating in the modern world. What does that look like? And for me, and you guys can chime in as well, there's a lot of apps. Like when I was doing research for this episode, it's crazy the amount of apps and like the questions that they ask you, like just for giggles. No, I had to like tell my husband beforehand. I was like, look, if anybody tells you they seen me on Hinge or Bumble, I was on there for 5 minutes because I wanted to see what the process was, like all the questions that they ask you and stuff like that, because I didn't start dating in that world. Funny story, I'll go ahead and share just to throw it out there. My husband and I actually met on MySpace, which was before there were dating apps and stuff like that. And it was before Facebook. It was when you could have a glorious song picked as your profile jam, and you could have a top 5 and you could have a top 12 at one point. And the way I met him, and the reason I'm even telling you about the top, if you don't know about MySpace, is because I was looking for another guy. And my husband now was in his top 5 friends. So I was like, hey, what's up? Do you know so-and-so? Because I can't get a hold of him. And I was newly single. So I was looking up like an old flame. And he says, no, I can't get a hold of him. But like, what are you doing? And he just kept on being insistent and insistent. And after a full day of him aggravating the piss out of me, I agreed to go to the movies with him. And it has been uphill ever since. So that's the way we met. But enough about me. Let's talk about the dating apps. What are your viewpoints on the dating apps, guys?
I primarily use Facebook dating.
Okay. And I just found out about that like 3 days ago.
That one, I do believe, I have really, really enjoyed it. There's several reasons. One is because it will not match you with people that you're currently
nice.
friends with, which
Okay.
I love.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That is a nice thing.
But second of all, when it does match you with people, it will show your mutual friends.
Oh,
So you
cool.
can kind of vet them.
Well, I was going to say you can bring up their profile then and like kind of look and get an idea of what they're like.
Figure out who they are. And
Yeah.
hey, Vanessa, there's this guy I'm thinking about matching with.
Yeah.
What do you know about him? And I usually get a quick, oh no.
Yeah. Or yeah, he's
a great
great.
guy.
That's
So
Yeah.
I really like that platform.
Okay.
And that way you can use Messenger to
talk.
correspond.
And I love that because you immediately know they're in your area if you have mutual friends, things of that nature, as opposed to, I noticed on some of the apps, and I know I did a lot of research asking friends of mine that do the apps, a lot of like the big red flags that they see. And a big one that a lot of them shared with me was people lying about where they're from. Like they'll work in your area and they don't want to get caught where they live cheating. So they'll say they're from a different town or something. So you'll match with them and they're 300 miles away from you.
Or they'll pay to change their location.
Yeah, which is crazy, but
Yeah.
people do it. Like I was astounded at the amount of girls that found that to be like a huge disappointment that happens more often than not. I thought it was going to be, which ghosting was a huge one, but I kind of thought it was going to be people just catfishing in general. But it was these like lies off the rip, like where they're from, if they're actually in a relationship or not, things like that. What was your choice of apps or dating when you were single, Ben?
Well, unfortunately, app-wise, I didn't have any success.
Oh, okay.
I kind of want to give a breakdown. If I go on a tangent, just throw something
No,
out.
you're fine. You're fine. That's what we're here for.
I had tried Tinder.
Okay.
I had tried Bumble and Hinge.
Okay.
And looking at it now, it's kind of funny, but I kind of had like a concurrent thought of all three, like while using them. Like Tinder is most of the people on there for me, and this was majority while at Marshall.
Yeah.
Most of the people on there for me were Marshall students, and the age group I had was around my age, of course, which I
Yeah.
went a little over. And it'd be Marshall students or it'd be people I knew in person or out in the city of Huntington or local areas. And it was kind of like, I don't want to belittle myself, but it was almost kind of like a higher standard of people who were on Tinder. And it's like, well, I don't really see a chance here. It's like, I knew like a majority of these people, or I'm mutuals with them. And it's like, there's no
Right.
chance. I was like, well, Tinder's kind of ruled out. So then you have, I don't know if it was Bumble or Hinge. I think it was Hinge. Hinge had a lot of people that to me looked like, oh, well, that'd be someone nice to talk to or get to know. Like they look interesting or cool, or their
Yeah.
pictures were like somebody I'd want to talk to. But then I'd look and it'd be like 150 miles away, 200 miles away.
The distance thing. Yeah.
Every single person on there was over 100 miles. I'm
Yeah.
like, my distance is set to Charleston, so like 50, 45, 50 miles. And it's like every person was over 100. And I was like, I'd see one person that I knew, but it wouldn't be anywhere close. I'm like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
like-
Well, it's like a waste of your time almost.
Yeah.
It's like what's the point? Unless you're interested in long distance, but for the most part, if you're wanting companionship, you don't want them to be 100 miles from home.
Yeah, and the last one being Bumble, which honestly, my friends had talked about it, and we agreed that that one's probably the better one out of the three of them.
Right.
Which is kind of surprising to me because a lot of people like Hinge too. I feel like Tinder's kind of declined, but with Bumble, it's you have people that are close to you.
Yeah.
Almost all of them on there I'd never seen before in person,
Okay.
which can kind of set you up to be like, are they even real? If I've
Yeah.
never seen them, especially if like people do go and look up their profile or like who they are and you can't find anything. It's like they might not
Well, I
be
was gonna
real.
say, how scary is that you're like, okay, this has to be too good to be true. Like, does that happen a lot in the
I-
dating world now?
I feel like it can be, especially in the sense if you are going to use an app and you can't find that person on social media. At that point, it's like, I might as well not even swipe on them.
Well, and it's almost like, do you even exist if you don't have social media? Like,
Exactly.
yeah, like, is there any way in the world that you're real? Because who doesn't have social media to some extent? Whether it's Insta, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter,
Yeah.
something. You're somewhere.
But I'd say Bumble out of the three was the better one. Not like again, I didn't get really anything on any of them. Bumble was actually one that I did get matches on,
Yeah.
but the ones I'd get matches on were people I didn't know, and I knew didn't have mutuals. So
Right.
like, I know nobody around here knew them, so it was probably falsified, maybe
Right.
a fake account. But I'd say the quality on there was a lot better than the other two. There are people I'd see that I'd be, oh, I'm interested in, and their topics that they have listed on their account are stuff that I'm
Yeah.
relatively interested in, and it's easier to put hobbies down on that, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like
for sure.
it filters a lot better on that. But the people I would match with, it's like they're super dry talking, or they just didn't want to talk. They're just matching to match.
Just
It's
like trying to pull teeth to get them to have a conversation with
yeah,
you.
it's like it's not worth it at that point.
Yeah.
I will say, during when I was at Marshall, I don't know if this was a like special thing they did on the app, but every other day they do like a specific 1 hour window where it was like a quick chat. And it's
Oh,
like
that's
whoever
cool.
you would like end up with, you'd have a quick 10-minute conversation with, and it'd go, and then they'd end up in your message folder if you still wanted to talk to them.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was neat, which
That is
the other
really
two didn't
neat.
have.
Well, in my research, that's why I would just, if you guys noticed, I picked my phone up because I wanted to make sure that I got the name of the app correct. There's a podcast that I listened to gear up for this called Kinda Dating, which is really funny. If you guys are interested, I don't know if you would be now that you're not single. I'm married and I still am getting a lot of joy and laughter from it, but she's a comedian that talks about the dating woes in the world. And one specific episode was a dating app. So I was like, okay, I need to listen to that one because we're talking about that. And it's called Magnet. And the way that it works, I don't know if either of you have heard about it, is, and I don't know how well it would work like in an area like us for Huntington. And I want to download it and see if it works here, just out of curiosity. But you check into a location that you go a lot. Like say, Amy Jo, you go to book tenders a lot, and that's kind of like a hangout for you. You check in at book tenders, and it will give you an immediate response of like who is also at book tenders and shares that with you. And if you guys choose to match, you can go ahead right then and have a 5 or 10 minute conversation. And it's not like all this pressure of like, you've set up this date, you've had to get
Gotcha.
ready, you've done all this stuff. Cause you might just be hanging out with your girlfriends and you can be like, hey, I'm going up here real quick to get a coffee and talk to this fella and see if we hit it off. And if we don't, cool. Like we go our other ways and it's fine. But I thought that was a really cool concept.
Yeah, that's neat.
Was that because you could check into the places that you regularly go. So, off the bat, you already have that in common. That is somewhere that you guys regularly spend your time. And the thing they were talking about I thought was interesting was people aren't upfront about their lifestyle choices in a lot of these apps. And one specific, not that there's anything wrong with having a disability, but a girl did not say that she was paraplegic. So the guy gets on the date with her and she's like, hey, can we skip the valet and park over in this parking lot closer to the front door? And he's like, yeah, sure. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, we can do that. And turns out she has, she's paraplegic and she refuses to use a wheelchair. So she's using the, my brain's escaping me. What are the crutches? Yes. She's using crutches, but her legs, they can't hold any weight at all.
Right.
So they go to cross the road to get into the club and she's like, they're going to a comedy club. And she's like, you may have to carry me. And he's like, I don't care to carry you, but I wasn't prepared for this. And
Sure.
they're in a very busy city. And he's like, so it was a nightmare getting her across. And he said, and I did not even think about it. As soon as we got to the other side, I took her down off my back and stood her up, not thinking she can't bear any weight on her legs. So he dropped her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how mortifying. You feel like a terrible human at that point. And you can't be mad that she's paraplegic, but you can, I think, as a human, be mad that she did not share that to prepare you
Sure.
for that date. Because I think he, in that situation, would have planned a more disability-friendly date as opposed to on a busy street in LA that has this line to get in
Absolutely.
and this huge road to cross and things like that. So have you guys come across anything like that where people aren't upfront about something? Maybe it's that something as crazy as they're vegan. So you've planned a date at a steakhouse. You know what I mean? Maybe something crazy.
Mine have been, I'm pretty upfront on my bias.
Mm-hmm.
I state very clearly I have 3 cats.
And your cat
If you're
babies.
allergic, it's a no-go.
It's a no-go. Yeah.
And I state things like that. And guys will still, they'll accept the date, but, end up coming over, and then they can't breathe and their throat's closing up. And, it's like we've had wonderful conversations for weeks and hung out, and now you come over and you can't breathe.
You're dying
and they're
on
like,
the couch.
this isn't
Right.
going to work. And I'm
Right.
like, it was in my bio.
Yeah. Like, why didn't you speak up?
I get that.
Like, why would you want to put yourself in a situation
And I'm like,
of like putting your health at risk?
pulling up.
Right,
like,
all
my eyes are
red.
closed.
Oh, that's hilarious. Have you had any experiences like that? Like just in dating in general?
Honestly, I'm trying to think of any. I feel like I don't.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing
I
that
feel
you
like
don't have a
I've-
horror story.
I feel like I've gotten off a little easy there. I will say there was, I'm not going to say a name, but there was a girl in Marshall that I talked to. I want to say, when was that? The end of my freshman year.
Okay, so it's been a
And
while.
So getting used to Marshall and how being a college student was.
Yeah.
There was a girl that I met that was from West Virginia, but not from Huntington. So she lived on campus,
Okay.
and we had hung out a bunch. I could tell that she was interested. I was like, well, that's nice.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it feels good to be wanted.
It's like, it's been a while. Starting Marshall, it's like, it's nice to have a few people, especially someone that is interested in me.
Yeah.
We'd hang out all the time. And I want to say it didn't last that long. But I want to say within a month or so, we didn't date. We just it was kind of like a
Hanging out, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a flirtatious get together.
Situationship.
Yeah. It was worse. It was worse than that. I ended up finding out that she was dating somebody,
Oh my gosh.
and she never told me.
Oh no.
And I was terrified. I was like, now I have this girl that I like that I guess likes me, maybe doesn't like me,
But she's
but
committed.
she's like hanging out with me, and we're just
Having a great time.
having fun. And I find out she has a boyfriend, not by her.
I was gonna say, did you confront her about it?
And her boyfriend messaged me,
Oh no,
and
that's the worst.
and I was
I've
like,
had that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Oh
like,
no.
her boyfriend messaged me, and I was like, "Who is this?" And she's like, "I'm so sorry." And then which that put it nicely. She didn't really say that, but
Right.
I was like, I don't know what to say. And funny enough, it's not funny now I think about it, but he was like, he wasn't mad. He was more sad and disappointed
I'm
to find out. And
sure.
which I hate confrontation. If there's
Yeah.
anything you're going to find out from me, is I hate stuff that doesn't need to happen.
Right.
And he like went on a whole story, like told me to treat her nice.
Oh, so he was like prepared to lose her to you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
heartbreaking.
I felt really bad. And which this was side story. So I went to BCM at Marshall,
Okay.
which is the campus ministry there.
Uh-huh.
But prior to that is when I was with like seeing her while this was
Yeah.
going on. So whole change there after
Right.
that.
For sure.
But I was just like, I hate this because I feel bad that I feel like just destroyed this.
You're like a
But
homewrecker.
then
Yeah.
but then she's like, I was gonna break up with him anyway. I was like,
Oh,
oh my
but still,
gosh,
what a weight to
yeah.
carry on your shoulders that like you had to be the one
I
to
was
carry
like,
that burden.
yeah, I know. I felt bad. I was like, do I even say anything? It's like,
Right.
I told him, I was like, I didn't know that you all were dating. It's like, she didn't say anything to me. She's like, I figured she didn't.
Oh, that's the
So
worst.
I think that's, I was gonna say, I don't have any stories, but then that came to my mind. I was like, yeah, I do
Well,
have one.
and doing my research, I was telling you guys a little bit before we started recording. I have a few girlfriends that live out of state, like in bigger cities, that use a lot, like every dating app. And when I say every, I mean like she named off 20 off the top of her head, like it was nothing. And I'm like, girl, you're wild. Because I feel like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong coming from like a married person, but I feel like being single is a part to full-time job in of itself to even navigate the apps and the dating world and like the friends that are trying to set you up and maintain relationships with strangers. I mean, you know what I
It
mean?
is.
Because that's what you're doing. You're trying to maintain and grow a relationship with a complete stranger.
I will say, so between the relationship I'm in now and the last one I had, it was coming up on 8 years,
Oh,
which
wow.
would have been December, and I started dating in November. Within that 8-year window, a lot can happen.
For sure.
And during that was me graduating high school and then doing 4 years of college and then starting a job. And that's
And
a
we
whole
grow,
transition.
I was going to say, we grow a lot during college. I mean, I think I can
Yeah.
speak for everyone. Like, we are finding ourselves for the first time
Good, bad,
almost.
and ugly.
Yes, all of it.
I was gonna say there were not a handful. There was a few people at Marshall that we kind of had things, but not actual dating.
All right.
And I told I don't want to say her name, but the woman I'm dating now,
Yeah.
I told her about one of them, and I was like, that's someone I could have seen myself being with, and I didn't go that way.
Right.
And I just feel like when you go 8 years without actually dating somebody, you start to feel like maybe I shouldn't date somebody, or am I supposed to be single?
Right. So that was something that, like, I actually wanted to talk about with you guys. Is it something that you self-reflect and become almost like, am I the problem after so many letdowns in the dating world?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
It's easy to feel that way.
To self-reflect and think that it must be me because it's not working out. I think as humans, I think we're hard on ourselves in general, but I think when it comes to relationships, and I can say this from even like friendships, it doesn't have to be a love or a romantic relationship, but it is so easy to internalize things when they go wrong and just feel like it must be us. So that leads you down like the self-help and
Oh,
like
yeah.
like the podcast, like I was mentioning, like it really embodies you and you get in your own head. You really do. So I didn't know if that was like a big part of an experience that you guys have
I
had.
think another thing that's difficult about online dating, or even not online dating, just
Dating in
dating
general.
someone new,
Yeah.
is so many people text, obviously.
Yes.
Now, Vanessa, I've known you for a handful of years. I've
Yes,
known you
yes,
10
yes,
years. So
yes.
if I text you, you know my humor, you know my sarcasm.
Absolutely.
You can understand my tone. If I say something, you know I'm not being a bitch.
Right.
You know I'm being
Right.
funny. Somebody new might take that as,
Wow.
that was so rude,
She's so
or
rude.
she's really shy, or that, they just don't understand. like, and vice versa.
Texting
you
is so
just
hard.
don't, you can't hear the tone
The
behind
tone,
it.
right?
And so
And you can't get sarcasm.
that is hard in a
modern world.
meeting someone new.
Yeah.
Is learning each other's tone.
Which is why I kind of thought
Because
that
I am a smart ass.
you absolutely are. You absolutely are. And I love that about you. And it brings the humor. It definitely lightened a lot of work days.
I love being
for sure.
smart ass, but
Yeah.
it can come across pretty ugly if you don't
know someone. Yeah. It's and working in the nonprofit world, you meet all walks of life. So just building those work relationships, it doesn't even have to be those romantic relationships, getting to know people. Like you sit in meeting after meeting after meeting, and it takes a while to get to know these people. So like add that romantic aspect on top of it, and it's a whole nother ballgame. It's a whole nother ballgame. So so let's actually, now that we've kind of led there, let's talk about that. Dating in general, meeting new people. I know Amy, just because we're friends on Facebook and stuff like that. I know you've done like speed dating. Have you done speed dating
I
or
did
like
once.
Okay, one. Okay,
Last Valentine.
I thought that I seen that. That's what it was.
Cupid is Stupid event.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Like, and is there a lot of events for singles in our area? I did a little bit of research and I couldn't find a lot.
They need a lot more. Last year's would have been so much fun, but it ended up being a snowstorm.
Oh no.
So there was me and my girlfriend and maybe one other guy that was single.
Oh
we
no.
just ended up hanging out.
Yeah.
He became a good friend of ours, and but yeah, it was a really cute event. You wore green if you were interested in meeting people. You wore red if you were
just out having a good time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You wore yellow if you were open to it but not sure.
Well, so
it was
there's
just a cute little event.
My girlfriend was telling me, her name is also Amy. She was telling me there used to be a girl in the area that did a lot of events like that, but she has now since moved to Cincinnati, and she's doing something similar up there for Valentine's Day. So she may have been the person that put that event on. I'm not sure. But back in like the heyday of Huntington, we used to have a bar that had telephones on each table.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And you could call the other tables.
They were red.
Yeah.
Wired.
So you could just call the other tables. If you think so-and-so's cute, you could be like, hey, how are you? Or, hey, my girl thinks that you're hot, or, you want to buy around, which I think is like the coolest thing in the world that we need to bring back, just as someone. I'm not even single, and I think that would be super fun. Like, I think that would be hilarious to like see your girlfriend across the way, and instead of having to make your way to the bathroom and stopping by their table to say, hey, you could literally pick up the phone and be like, hey, girl, I didn't know you had the same plans as me tonight.
That's cute. Yeah, the event I went to, they had little mailboxes set up.
Okay.
You wore a number on your shirt.
Okay.
So let's say my number was 3, and I have a corresponding mailbox, so people could leave little notes in your box. At the end of the night, I get, hey, girl, you have a beautiful smile. Love your tatas.
I could see that one.
Things like that. Didn't get a number. It didn't go anywhere. But
people feel
a lot of
safe when it's anonymous. Yeah,
but
people
it
feel
was
like
a
they can
cute
say
idea.
things like "love your tatas."
Again,
something you would never say otherwise.
Had it not been a snowstorm, I think it would have been a lot more fun.
Yeah,
it would have been a full house.
Well, I was looking up events in our area, and honestly, and I posted this on Facebook. I was a little let down by the amount of. And this is not even just for single people, for people in a relationship, married couples, all couples, single people, whoever, everybody. There's not a lot of events going on for Valentine's Day. I mean, of course, like the restaurants are having like special dinners that cost a little bit more because you're getting like a bottle of champagne or something like that. But one of the biggest ones that I saw that looked really fun was Huntington Pride is doing a stoplight party, which is similar to what you were saying with the dating game. So like it's like they use the colors of the traffic light to say whether you're into dating, if you're just here to have a good time, whatever. And I thought that was really cool. And then SIP is doing Swinging with Sinatra, where they're going to do like a wine tasting, and they're going to have a gentleman doing Sinatra songs. I think his name is Lee. I can't think of his last name, but if you're familiar with going downtown, he moonlights in a few of the restaurants and sings, and he kind of looks like Sinatra. But then, of course, we've got the always faithful Greater Huntington Parks and Recreation events. They have the daddy-daughter dance. They have the Galentine's lunch or brunch. And then they have, Well, I think the Valentine's Day brunch, they do 2 events of that. They do it 2 weekends in a row because it was such a good seller. And then I seen another thing, Pearl Picnics. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of her. She's like an event planner, and she's doing several packages with wine tastings and things like that, where you can kind of set up these dream TikTok dates, I call them, like the ones where like you're in the bubble and you've got the rose petals and all the things. So she does that kind of stuff. So she's offering those packages, which I think would be really fun with your girlfriends. I don't necessarily want to do that with my husband because he's not going to appreciate it like my girlfriends are going to. So I thought that was pretty cool. Tell me about any setups that you guys have had, like your best friend or a girlfriend or whoever is like, I met this person and they are going to be perfect for you. Have you had any of those experiences that just went like totally downhill and you're like, do they even know me? Are they even my friend?
I had the opposite actually,
Oh, okay.
which is kind of funny. We mentioned that my previous relationship,
Right.
he passed away after a long illness almost 3 years ago, which has put me back in this awful single world.
Well, which is, we were talking before we started recording, that's a whole nother level of anyone who has lost someone. Grief is so heavy, but when you lose someone that you thought was going to be your forever, that's going to cause you to put up a big wall. That you're going to be very guarded.
It can.
You're going to be very protective of yourself.
I think a lot of men get intimidated because even though he's not here,
He's
that
still a
love
big
didn't
part
go
of your life.
away. We
Yes,
didn't break up.
exactly. Exactly.
He's gone.
I
Passed.
have a really good friend. We've been friends since high school, and she married. His name's Buck. Well, his name's James, but everybody calls him Buck. And he passed away in a motorcycle accident. And she has since moved on and in a relationship, and she's very happy. But she still celebrates their anniversary. She still celebrates his birthday. That love did not go away because he's no longer here. So I get that 100%.
Right.
And I could also see the other side of that, of it kind of being intimidating.
It is intimidating.
Yeah.
And I think I deal very well with my grief, and I've gotten to that point.
And you have a great sense of humor that I think
Yeah.
helps.
And yeah, but on the flip side, speaking of that, I met him about 20 years ago,
Oh, wow.
before my second marriage, and he was a good friend of my best friend and a couple of
Okay.
really good friends, and it was the opposite. They were like, "Oh God, Amy Jo's single, he's single. Do not let those two
Do
meet.
not let them.
It'll be like gasoline and fire,
Yeah.
They'll tear up the town." We were young. We were both out of
Yeah.
out of a relationship. They were like, "Don't let those two meet. They're so much alike. There'll be nothing but trouble," like in a good way. But and I knew what he looked like, and he knew what I looked like, and we went out one night by ourselves without
Yeah.
our friends, and lo and behold,
Behold, run
he
into
was
each
like,
other.
"Hey."
I love that. I love that.
He was like, "I like your hair." He had a tagline. He was always like, "I like your hair."
I love
like
that.
And he came up to me and he's like, "I like
'Cause you
your
do-
hair."
you
And I
do
was like,
have
"Oh
great
my
hair."
God, you're JIG.
Like, oh my God, I know you. I love
He
that.
was like, "Yeah." And yeah, so our friends were like, "Oh God, you let them meet."
Which is funny that you said that you guys were so much alike. I just learned a recent thing. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but a twin flame
Yeah.
is supposedly someone that is like your complete like match. You're so much alike, but it also creates difficulty in the relationship because you are so much alike. So I just
It
learned
did
about
at that age. He was in
Yeah.
his early 20s. I had just turned 30. Life circumstances didn't allow a long-term relationship at that
Right.
time, and we went our own ways and just stayed friendly. But after Johnny passed away, we had stayed friends, and I was single again, and he was single. No, it was not after Johnny passed away. After I got divorced.
Yeah, okay.
He was Johnny.
Well, I was like, hold
I'm
on,
getting
where are
ahead
we
of myself.
going? I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was like, hold on, where are we going with this?
Yeah, getting way ahead of myself. But yeah, after my second divorce, and
Rekindled.
he was divorced, and we became friends first for a long, long time and hung out. And so that twin flame, we were still
It was still there.
there, but a lot more mature and a lot
Yeah.
more.
I think
He wasn't 22 anymore.
well, that's what I was going to say. I think a hard thing with especially Ben at your age is a lot of aspects, women are so much more mature than men. So maybe the girl that you were talking to, maybe the one that ended up having the boyfriend, maybe she just didn't know how to navigate that. And maybe you guys could have been something long term, but because she didn't navigate the situation correctly, it put a damper on the whole thing. And I think, I mean, I can speak from that because I got married really early in high school, had a baby, did the whole marriage thing before I was even 20 years old. I was in a failed marriage, single mom, doing all the things. But at that point when I was dating, it was so hard to meet a guy, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. These are like your non-negotiables in dating, right? So it was really hard for me to meet a guy that didn't live at home at that age, because a lot of them were still living at home because they're mama's boys. And another one was that if they weren't living at home, they lived in a house full of other guys and they were disgusting. So there was like no chance of you staying at their house. And being a single mom, I don't want anybody at my house. So I had a crazy work schedule where I got off at 3:00 in the morning. So I'm sleeping till like 11:30, 12. And then that's when my day starts. And then I'm going back into work at 6. So it was really hard for me to meet people that didn't surpass those immediate non-negotiables for my life. So what are some non-negotiables for you guys?
I will say, before we jump in, on the topic of kind of the setup, I wouldn't say necessarily someone had set me up for anything. However, thinking about that question, I quickly realized that not a handful, but some of the relationships I was in had best friends that kind of helped cater that relationship.
Right.
But then got to a point where they were like, oh, well, they'd be better with me than my best friend.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, there was one instance of that. And I was like, actually, there's 2. And I was like, oh, there's 3. And it's like, it came an instance of, I guess they saw how I treated their best friend.
Yeah.
And which I'm not mean. I don't try to be mean.
I can't see you being mean.
And
Yeah.
they're just like, oh, well, I feel like I could, like they thought their friend was being mean to me. Like, oh, I could treat him better.
And they thought they could benefit from your kindness. Yeah.
And
well, that's cool to be on the flip side of that. Like in your aspect is to have, now you've got 2 people interested in you rather than just the one. But at the same time, like I have seen where, and I think girls do this probably a lot more than guys, but we overshare our relationships with our girlfriends, and then that makes them fall for the guy because they're getting to know them intimately the same way we are. Hate the guy.
I was gonna say,
it can go both ways.
I was nervous because it's like I have intentions with who I'm dating.
Right.
And if their best friend likes me, they may try to either manipulate me or their best friend to think that
to ruin that relationship.
Right.
Yeah. And I love that wording. I love that verbiage that you had intentions with the girl that you were seeing.
Yeah.
I think that's big in the world that we live in, to know what people's intentions are. I think that's the scary thing, is you never know what intentions are. And we were touching on that a little bit. I know we're getting a little bit off of the topic that we were talking about, but we were talking a little bit prior about the intentions of people. What are some things that off the rip that their intention was only a hookup? Does that happen a lot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
I will say, and I think this is more specific to my age group,
Yeah.
because I'm 50 versus you're 24.
24, yeah.
There's a lot of positives and there's a lot of negatives to date when you're 50.
Yeah.
The positives are, you know what you want. You've been through a lot. You know what you don't want.
Yeah.
But the negatives are you're set in your ways.
Oh, yes. I am at 39. I'm set in my ways.
We're also broken at
50. We've lived some life.
I mean, even if you've had a really good life, there's just been a lot of
loss, grief, loss. Yes, when you get older,
unfair relationships, kids, grandkids.
Well, and also carrying our friendships weights too. There's a lot.
I do find, even with myself, I think it's hard to narrow down intentions, because you may have an intention of, I want a relationship, or I would like just a really good friendship, but then that brokenness comes in, or just life situations come in, and it's like, no, that's not what I want. So that's where it's harder, I think, 50. I think there's just a lot of brokenness.
Right.
Yeah.
I could see that. That makes total sense to
And
me.
in my opinion, I think men handle it a lot worse.
I think so
They
too.
crutch
Not to
it
get
around.
teamed up
They-
on
they
them,
do,
but
they do crutch around like, oh, my
I've
heart
been
was hurt. I don't think I could
I've
do
been done
anything.
so wrong. Yeah,
Like,
I
get
feel like
over it.
women are more optimistic. I would agree with that 100%. And as someone who's been in a relationship since I believe Brandon and I were 19 which we've only been married a couple years, which AJ, you know that because we've been Facebook friends for
Sure.
all these years now, but we dated for like 15 years before we got married. Like we had other things that we wanted to do. We wanted to pay off our house. We wanted to pay off our cars. We wanted to be settled in and the funniest thing, we wanted really good insurance before we got married. Like one of us needed to have really good insurance before we felt like, okay, we're gonna let the government get involved in our relationship now. We're gonna make it official.
That's the benefit of marriage.
Yes.
and divorce.
So, we were able to do that, and I have great insurance, and now he's on my insurance, and that was really the push of why we did the official marriage. But we have seen a lot of relationships in our years come and go with our friends. A whole lot. We've seen a lot of marriages. We've seen divorces. We've seen terrible breakups. We've seen amicable breakups. But we've also got to watch and witness our friends grow and become who they are as people today, in their late 30s, early 40s, sometimes 50s. And I will say Brandon and I, we're usually the youngest in our friends group because we gravitate towards people that are in their mid to late 40s and 50s. I don't know why we do that, but most of our friends are in that friend group. The younger ones have kind of fallen off over the years because we're just not in the same place as they are. So it's hard to relate to them when they're still dating and like partying,
Sure.
things like that. So for us, the older crowd is more stable. They relate to us more. They're supportive of a relationship. There's never, like you were saying, Ben, the enviness of like, is she going to create a problem that ends up
Yeah.
being my fault? You'll get that in a lot of, because they're not mature yet. They're not there. So they can get envious of, oh my gosh, how have you made it work? And I'm talking as if we're not married yet. 15 years. How have you made it that long? We have a girlfriend that her and her was husband, now ex-husband, started dating at the same time that we did. And we got to watch that whole falling out. And now watching her date again, it's like a rotating door. And I'm like, they have kids from the first marriage. And I'm like, are you thinking about your kids when you're bringing all these guys around and bringing them to the Little League games and stuff like that? And then you find yourself being so judgmental, but at the same time wanting them to find happiness. So you're like, however they have to find that, like you want to be supportive. But anyways, I got on a little tangent there. I want to talk a little bit about the apps that are out there we may have a listener at home that is single and wants to go into the dating world. Forbes top 5, and you guys can tell me or chime in on these if you want or if you've heard about them. The number 1 was eHarmony. I think everybody's heard of eHarmony.
Yeah.
That was one of the old school originals. And then datemyage.com. Have you ever heard of it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had never heard of it. And then dating.com. I think everyone's heard of it. This one I've never heard of, stir.com.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. And they don't have an app. This is an actual website that I'm assuming that you pay for. So, and then match.com. Everyone's heard of match.com,
Yeah.
I feel like. But on the flip side of that, and eHarmony is at the top of this list too, is the top 25 apps. And these are ones that have apps and not just websites. And some of them may coexist because some of them have apps and websites. But eHarmony, Bumble, Hinge, OkCupid, and then Happen. I've never heard of it, and it's HAPPN, not EN. Had never heard of it, but it had really great reviews. These two specifically were in the top 25, but they are both lesbian, which is crazy for me because I didn't find the male equivalent of a gay app for the gay community. I'm sure they are, but they're just not in the top 25. But the two of them are called Her and Rhea. And then Coffee Meets Bagel, which I don't know why, but I just love.
I've been seeing
I love that
ads
name.
for that one.
I think
Yeah.
it's cute, which
know.
makes me wonder, like, and I didn't bring it up, but I wonder, like, do you meet in coffee shops? Coffee Meets Bagel,
Remember
is
the gist of the
Yeah.
commercials?
Which is another one of those, like, if you spend a lot of your time in a bookstore, like we were talking about, or a coffee shop, or, something like that, you do want someone that shares that. Like, maybe you start your day with a pot of coffee, and that's how you get your morning going. You kind of want somebody that does the same thing.
But I'm thinking the ads I saw for it, Coffee Meet the Bagel, was thinner men who were into heavier women.
Oh, now I need to look it up because I'm going to look it up because
maybe
now,
that was
because
just
I'm literally in my head making up a whole other thing.
I don't know.
Well, and I didn't know. I've never been on any of, for shits and giggles, I downloaded 2 of them and went through the questions, and I did tell my husband I was doing it, so not trying to cheat here. I just wanted to see the process, because after talking to so many single friends, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a job. This is an actual job in of itself to even maintain these profiles and put yourself out there. So you also had Tinder, Plenty of Fish, and then Match.com.
Now, FarmersOnly.com is not on there.
It didn't make the list. It didn't make the list. And then Christian Mingle.
Yeah,
I can't believe it didn't make the list either, honestly. But I've heard with Christian Mingle, I was told from a lot of my girlfriends that ones that got on there that are religious, a lot of people were using it and lying about their background and their faith, and just using it as another way to find hookups and stuff. So they were running into that, a lot of Christian Mingle. But one I got a lot of really negative feedback about, and I'm not judging the app because I've never personally used it, but Plenty of Fish, they said that is like the biggest one that you get catfished on, was Plenty of Fish. I don't know if have you ever used it? No?
I set up a profile and I never even looked at it. And I need to figure out how to delete it because I get a notification every day.
Well, they say that, I say they, my girlfriends and a few guy friends said that it's kind of like the place people go, kind of like that no one talks about you're there. Like you're on there, but no one talks about. So it's the place you can go and cheat. It's the place that no one's talking about if you're there or not.
Side-eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, thank you.
Exactly.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna sound old-fashioned a little
No,
bit.
I love old-fashioned.
The experience I've had between using the apps and going out and do stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell someone not to use an app, because if that's the way they feel is going to be successful for them, then that's how you should do it.
Yeah.
But the time that I was at Marshall, I wanted to make it, again, being from here, I knew that I was going to know a lot of people there, but I was going to meet a lot more people I didn't know of. And I wanted to make as many connections and friends as possible, of course, for business networking later on.
Absolutely.
But you kind of get the feeling of talking to people that you don't know right there in school.
Yeah.
And that translates to the real world of dating. To me, it's like you can use an app, but which I know Huntington, there could be a lot more events than there are, but you have stuff like 9th Street Live. Perfect example to go out in the summer.
We love 9th Street Live.
Listen to music. There's drinks spots right there.
Yeah, so you can take the edge off.
Yeah, or Pullman's a good place to just sit, or Ritter, enjoy nature and people, to see people going out. That's where the old fashioned in me is there's no better success story than building the courage to go talk to somebody, because you're either going to get told, no, I'm not interested, which is the easiest outcome.
Yeah.
Or you could say, it's nice to meet you. I'd love to learn more
hang
about
out
you.
more,
And you don't have to worry about, is this person real? You don't have to worry about if they're going to catfish you or lie to you. They could ghost you. That's inevitable, I feel like, whether it's in person or online. But at least you're getting out, not only seeing that the person is real, but you're building your own confidence. Whereas on an app, you're kind of just throwing out a solution out there or causing a problem. Whereas in real life, you get to know whether maybe this person is for me or they're not, just by that initial conversation with them. So I lean heavy towards the
real life, the IRL.
When I was his age, I agree completely.
Yeah.
Meeting organically.
Yeah.
It worked.
It worked, yeah.
At 50, unless you sweep me up at Kroger or
because you're not going a lot of places, right?
I mean, I work all day and I pretty much go home or I take care of my parents. Or, so I'm just, I'll go out once a quarter maybe with my girlfriends for a drink or something. But
you brought up the Facebook dating. I didn't know that existed.
I didn't either. I just learned
I
about
know
it.
that-
I'm almost sure they're doing away with it. My Facebook account got hacked back in October, and totally, I had to set up a whole new one. And when I did, it didn't have the option. And I Googled it, and it said they were trying to do away with it a little bit.
Well, that's a bummer since it was one that is successful for
Really
you.
well.
Well, and that was
I met some amazing.
my other girlfriend Amy that told me about Facebook dating. She loved it for the very same reasons you did. She's like, you can go and like click and see who their mutual friends are. You can creep.
Exactly, and
you
know,
can
us
creep
girls
on
can
them.
creep and figure out
Yes,
their profile
we can
and see if
creep.
they
We
really
can
do.
we can figure out like if they're like these real big political people that are out picking fights on the internet with people over politics. Because that's the worst. Like I think we can all agree to that person is the worst. Regardless of what their politics are, if they're just out here starting fights on social media, yeah, that's a red flag for sure. But she said that she loved that though because she could see them organically interacting with their connections on Facebook. If they didn't have a truly like locked down profile, she could see like the comments and the interaction and kind of get a feel for what their personality.
Yeah, you can vet them.
Yep. But she really loved it, so I hate to see that it's going because I think and my girlfriend Amy, she's significantly older than you. Like I said, we gravitate towards older people in our friend circle, but dating for her has been just ridiculous. Like it turns out almost every time that she really likes someone, they end up married and they're completely hiding it because maybe they have a spouse that they've got complete opposite hours that they work. Maybe they're a firefighter and they're on call for 24 hours. So like their spouse is used to them just not being around for that full 24 hours. So when they get their day off, they're used to doing their own thing and they're courting my girlfriend and she's getting to know him. And then like, she's 4 months into it. Turns out he's married with 5 kids.
Yeah.
And she didn't know otherwise. And now she's already fallen for him. And then she's like, well, I don't want to be the homewrecker. And I'm like, so don't. But at the same time, you can't change those feelings that you have now developed. So I think as humans, relationships are just hard. I think we can all agree to that. Like whether it's a friendship, a romantic, any of that, I think we can agree that it's hard. I do want to touch on this because I think it's hilarious. My girlfriend that's in North Carolina, her most recent, I don't know what app it was on, but she sent me a screenshot and the message this guy sent her was like, may I be your footstool? This is Charles from North Carolina. May I be your footstool? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Courtney, that's what you're dealing with? That's like the intro? So like Amy, you're laughing. What are some weird stuff that people have just said to you out of the blue? Like, because I think that's crazy. Like that feels like, first it feels like dominatrix type. So I feel like he's saying something about himself.
I was going to say, I get a lot of, you start talking and you're really enjoying these conversations and then they just throw it in there that, hey, they're dominant. Call me daddy and I want you to be my little
do
girl.
They?
And I'm like,
no, sir.
No,
sir.
No can do.
No. Another one she told me was this guy messaged her and was like, a lot of people like my referring to his private parts. Do you want to see it? And I'm like, what? That's what he led with? And she's like, you have no idea. She was like, I get that more than anything. She was like, it's always a different scenario, but just leading right with that. And I'm like, so as a female, the equivalent of that would be like, I have a pretty vagina. Would you like to see it? Like, I'm like, who talks that way? You know what I mean?
I had a
sorry, Ben, if we're embarrassing you.
I had a conversation with a young man. It was a pretty decent conversation. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Right.
Wasn't too flirty. We weren't planning a date yet or anything. We were just talking, and he said something like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" or whatever. And I said, "Oh, catching up on laundry.
Doing the normal,
kitchen,
right?
Whatever I was doing after work. What about you?" His response was, "Watching porn."
Oh, just casually.
Which is,
that's fine.
Whatever.
But you're going to share it.
I don't know you. This is our first conversation. And without hesitation, I guess unsolicited, very eye-opening, inappropriate pic, which was hilarious. He ended up being a match for one of my best friends. And,
oh my gosh, how funny. What a small world.
He has just dwindled down into all my friends. And I'm like,
Which shows you what kind of a small world it is in our area, the dating pool.
And his dad used to be my doctor.
Oh, how funny. Even smaller world.
Ugh.
Like, who are you? I know your dad. He didn't raise you like that. He raised
Or
you
was
like
your
that.
dad like that?
Yeah, like, did I not realize all these years?
So yeah, there's some.
Well, and I will say, like, unsolicited pictures, or I don't know if it's as bad for men as it is women, but I think as women, I don't know a woman that hasn't ended up with an unsolicited photo. You know of the one that I got sent as a married woman, a mutual friend of ours. And honestly, poor guy, much older than me, accidentally, like, it wasn't even on purpose, and I believe him wholeheartedly, accidentally was sending it to another person, and we share the same name. And so I get it, and I'm like, oh shit. Like, what do you even say? This is a person, this is my boss, this is a person that I work with daily and have to conversate with. And at the time, we're out of town, we're staying in a hotel, we're on a week long we're on a week long training, and I'm like, what do I even do? So, like, I laugh about it now, still to this day. He laughs about it. But there was another person that ended up being on because it was like a group message for our work team. And you know how, like, on Facebook Messenger, it's like whatever the first person's name is what comes up. You don't see the whole group.
Yeah.
That had happened. So there was a few of us in that message that he accidentally sent it to, but thinking he was sending it to the girl with the same name,
That's funny.
sharing the same name. And another person took it completely the other way. And the poor guy ends up losing his job. And I'm like, he's human. Like, he's human. He literally, we know the mistake that he made here, and I felt bad for him. I was embarrassed for him because I know he was mortified that it happened. But I think as humans, you either have the people that are super comfortable with sharing those kinds of photos, and then you have the people that are like, I would never. And I would never. Like, even with my husband, I would never. Like, we're not spicy in that way. I don't want my children to find a photo of me on the internet in 2075 when they Google my name. You know what I mean? Like, I am very fearful of that. So it's not just single people. I think I've even had unsolicited ones sent on Facebook Messenger or Instagram. Instagram is the worst for, like, some random people, I have noticed, to send you some, hey, you're hot, here's a dick pic, you know. I try to stay off that app because specifically for that, but it's not even people from around here. It's like from people from all over. Like, it's just crazy people, crazy people.
Yeah, I don't get the fascination with it.
I don't either. Like,
especially on the guy end of it. So, like, to me, it's like, why would you do that? But I feel like for my age, I'm a little more mature than most.
You are very mature, yes.
And it's any age group or window that could do that, whether it's whoever it's to.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, I think about it, I'm like, I'm just going to throw an age out there. It's like, if you're 37,
you know better.
You're in someone's message and you're like, oh, well, but they'll like this, and they say
yeah.
It's like,
exactly. I bet they'll like this.
It's like, not I don't want to say that as an older group, but to my age it is. And
yeah.
It's like, you've known for at least a minimum of 20 years
that's not appropriate.
That is not okay to do.
Yeah.
But you still do it, and it's like, if you think that no one's going to know you're doing it, it's
everybody
on their
knows.
phone.
Everybody knows.
There's nothing holding.
I will tell you right now, as women, and MJ, you can verify this on your end. Our friends know. As soon as that happened, our friends know.
I just don't
it's getting screenshotted, and we're telling people.
I just don't get the thought process.
In my case, I immediately screenshotted and told my husband, because I was like, what do I do? Because he's my best friend. So I'm like, what do I do? You know? And my husband's like, tell him it's nice. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. But I mean, I think that there's also, when we talk about, there's two different kinds of people. There are the people that are sending these photos, and then there's people that are like, I would never. I think on the flip side of that, there's the people that get, like, super offended by it, or the people that laugh it off. I'm a laugh.
I laugh it off.
I laugh it off. I don't get too bent out of shape. It's human anatomy. I'm a mother to a boy and a girl, so I've seen every aspect of the growing man. I'm married, so I laugh it off. I think it's funny. I think people are very brazen, and I'm like, wow, you metaphorically speaking, you have big balls. Like, you to not know me, or to know me and know that I'm married and still do that. I just think people are very brazen.
That's the worst thing, is I get them from the married man.
Yes. Like,
all the time.
So a lot of my girlfriends, and I know we're like beating a dead horse here, but a lot of my girlfriends, I didn't get it from the guys as much, but a lot of my girlfriends say a lot of their most successful dates in the modern world have been with married men that they find out later on that they have lied and literally courted them, took them on dates. I mean, sometimes gone out of town with them, took fun trips, and they will still say to this day, like my girlfriend Courtney that's in North Carolina, so she was saying like some of her best dates were with people that like nothing came of it because they're clearly already committed to someone else and they just failed to mention that. Just left that little bit out. Oh, by the way, I've been married 15 years. Got 3 kids and a golden retriever, you know. I got the whole thing at home, but they're just courting other people, which I guess like in these bigger cities it's easier to get by with that where she's in Charlotte. I don't think you could get by with it here as much because you go to your local bar and you're going to get seen. You're going to get seen and I'm going to be like taking a photo, whipping out my phone and being like, "Oh girl, your man's in here acting a fool, making a fool of you." So yeah, I don't think you get by with it as much here. Well, is there anything that we have? Well, actually, I want to touch on this one thing before. What is a green flag for you? Like immediately if you are scrolling these dating apps or you can even talk about the green flag with your girlfriend now. What was that one thing that you were like, okay, this could be it. This is something that really intrigues me.
It was easy for me.
Okay.
I'm going to sound like a simple man whenever I say this, but so the girl I'm dating now, we had known each other for a decade, and we met each other during band in high school.
Oh, okay.
We marched together.
Yeah.
We had a alumni night recently, and it's the first time I'd seen her in a couple years, and which I get to that, and I want to play, and I'm like, if I only get off work for once, I can do this. I get there, and me and her talk for 30 minutes.
Oh, I love that.
Nonstop, just back and forth, and it's like, I haven't felt a communication with someone like that in a long time, and if it doesn't go somewhere, it doesn't go somewhere.
Well, but you've rekindled a friendship.
Yeah, I was like, I
feel
the need to like follow up and talk to them, and that's how that went. And to me, where the green flag comes out of that is whether they were going to end up dating me or not. They showed an interest in wanting to talk to me.
Yes.
And on apps, you can't really get that kind of feeling, which is why I said I like the old-fashioned.
You like dating in person, yeah, in the real world.
The green flag there was no matter what I was saying to her, her eye contact was there. And she was listening to what I was saying and cared about what I was saying, about what I've been doing the last few years. Mm-hmm. And it was reciprocated. When she would talk, I would listen. It was like no.
So there was no mistaking that feeling.
Yeah, it was right. Like it was like we were surrounded by people at this football game, but it felt like we were the only people there.
Oh, I love that.
So, to me, that was a green flag. Sweet. But outside of that, just show that you care. If there's going to be an argument, don't try to push the other person into feeling like it's their fault. Just talk to each other.
Talk it out, yeah.
Being honest with each other. There's nothing to hide.
I was going to say, which is also the success of a going on 20 years relationship with my husband. Talk it out.
Yeah.
It's not going to come easy. Like I would lie if I said that our whole relationship has been easy. But I think that goes for friendships too. Like we keep saying that. I mean, it goes back to all relationships. Be a decent human.
Yeah, exactly. I would say
be a decent human.
Trust is a big thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know how she feels, but if she wants to go out with friends, or if she wants to go to a bar with friends, or if there's people she wants to catch up with, I don't care.
Yeah.
If I trust you enough to go, you do what you want to do, and you could tell me I'm wrong about what I'm going to say. If she goes out, I expect her to have fun, and I don't expect anything wrong to happen. I just want her to have fun.
Have a good time, right?
And
I know she would never do this, but let's say she would cheat, then that's how that's supposed to be. That wasn't supposed to work out that way. That wasn't
meant to be for you.
I'm not going to be the one to tell her she can't go out and do stuff or be with her friends.
Right.
And if she cheats, then she cheats, then that's how that goes.
Then that wasn't for you,
There's no reason for me to...
That's her character.
Tell her, there's no reason for me to tell her not to do something or do whatever. That's just a full trust I have. That's kind of like how I lean green flag wise.
Yeah, well, I think that's big because, like, in my job now, I have to we laugh and say I have work boyfriends or work husbands all the time because there are certain males that I have to work with more than others. And we do end up building a relationship, not a romantic one, but we talk on the phone. We're first thing in the morning, like this is my morning routine. I have two guys that I talk to almost every morning because I'm either planning a podcast with one of them or the other one, my boss. I have to tell him what my day looks like, just like I would tell my husband what my day looks like, because I work independently in a building. I'm alone all the time. So I have to touch base with him and let him know like what my day looks like. So I think having that trust is huge, especially coming from someone your age. And I know we keep saying that like you're the small little wee baby, but the fact that you think that way already that's going to get you really far in life, very, very far in life, because that's a big one. And I do agree with you. I think that's a big green flag. Amy, what about you? What are some
green flags?
What are something that like if you're swiping, you're like, oh yeah, that's a winner.
Obviously, confidence and more like once I start talking to them, like he said,
actually having the conversation.
When you get to that point, you're like, instead of like trying to text on this app.
Let's talk. Let's meet up for coffee or something.
And there's been men that we can talk for 4 or 6 hours. We've never met each other, and it's so organic. And a lot of times they just turn out to be really good friendships that I've still had for 2 or 3 years.
And that's fine. Because as humans, I think we're looking for that companionship. It doesn't have to be romantic.
Yeah. But like he said, just listening and the eye contact, or instead of it being one-sided, asking questions. I think when a man asks questions and I in turn ask questions, and that's always a green flag. Can't deal with jealousy and trust issues.
That's a no-go for me. That's a red flag for sure.
I mean, that's just
it speaks on their character.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't be questioned all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to question. I won't be with somebody that if I need to question
them, you're not for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of thing.
So it's that vibe you get.
Just the little things. I talked to a guy not too long ago, and he said, "What are you doing this weekend?" I said, "I actually got my nose in a really good book." And he was like, "Oh, what book are you reading?"
Oh, so he actually cared. Yeah.
And I told him. He's like, "Oh, I actually just went to see the author at a book signing at Book Tenders, and we should get together and get a Book Tenders."
That's fun.
That is fun.
So, just that kind of thing.
So the feeling that you get from a person is that green flag. Yeah. Okay. I get that. All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up. Amy Jo and Ben, on behalf of myself, the show, and our listeners, thank you. And I mean that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the insight, the laughs. And as always, thank you guys at home. We're always appreciative that you tune in. Amy Jo is a listener. So it's kind of neat having her. It's pretty neat having her in the studio. I love when listeners actually get to come on the podcast and interact with us. So thank you guys for being here. Really, it means a lot. And I think our listeners at home are going to be really appreciative of the insight for sure. I think this is going to be a fun little episode. Anything you guys want to add?
I have a small one.
Okay.
Whether dating or not, or seeking or not, it's still nice to make new friends.
Absolutely.
And maybe that friend can turn into something more.
For sure.
But don't feel like being single is a bad thing. And
I agree with that.
Don't feel like you have to rush yourself into a relationship, because things will fall into place. And if you're meant to be single, then you're meant to be single. But the worst thing you can do is put yourself in a position you don't want to be in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I
That's a good addition.
Feel like being single is a negative.
I don't think it is either. I tell my husband all the time, and of course, until I'm in that situation, I'm not going to know what I'll actually do. But mentally in my head, if something were to happen to my husband right now, I think I would be okay with being single, because I have great friendships. I have great relationships with other couples that are friends with Brandon and I. I have a whole life. I have a career. I have all of these things, and I'm like you, Amy Jo. Like I'm not going to be questioned about anything. Like if I want to, if I wake up at 2:00 in the morning and I can't sleep, and I've got a girlfriend that's down at St. Mark's, and she's like, "I've had the worst day. Please have a drink with me." I want that freedom to, if I feel like it, get in my car, go down, I probably am not going to have a drink, so I'm not a big drinker, but I'm going to hang out with her, and it's going to be fine because it's not hindering my life in any way. But the moment someone is going to be like, oh, 2:00 in the morning
You were
at 39 years old, you were at St.
your
Mark's.
parents till 11.
Yeah, you were hanging out with your parents.
How
Like, who
dare
does
you.
that? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to be questioned. So I think, and again, I can't say until it actually happens, and I hope that it doesn't, but because he's my best friend. But I think I would wear it like a badge of honor. I think I would be completely okay with being. But I'm a homebody. I'm a to myself kind of person.
Me too. But I think what's worked for me to make being single okay, because I was married young. I was in a relationship, either married or dating, since I was
Same.
in high school.
Yeah, same.
So this is the first time that I really have been on my own, and it's actually been healing, and it's been
For sure. See, that's what I think it will be for me if it were to happen.
I love it, and it's just how you look at it, and I can honestly say my personality type is I just try not to ever burn a bridge, and
For
just
sure.
because things don't work out romantically for whatever reason, as long as they ended it in a kind way, stay friends.
Stay friends,
And,
yeah. You
and
can
we
never have too many.
I have with so many of these men that I've met. We still hang out, and so when you do have those times when you're like, "Man, I'm lonely. I don't have a date for this Christmas party," or there's still a handful
still
that I can
people
call and
you
be
can
like,
call
"Hey,
up.
will you be my plus one?" And they're
Yeah.
like, "Happy to do it."
Happy to,
And
yeah.
and then sometimes it really
Sometimes
does
it
turn
turns
into
into something.
something. But
Right.
just don't burn your bridges, and just enjoy being
Being
alone.
you and being alone in the time.
And when you think you really, really, really want a relationship, call one of your married.
Call one of your married. Call us. We'll let you know how annoying it is that his socks are by
You're
the
like,
front
"Can
door.
I just tell you what he did?"
Or that
And then
he's
I'm like,
farting in his sleep and keeping you awake. I'm not talking about you, Brandon. Not at all.
So,
Yeah.
I just remember I have, good or bad, I have no children.
Right.
I have
You have
just
freedom.
me and my cats, and so I'm just enjoying it, taking it day by day.
I love
Things
that.
work out, they do.
And I love Ben, your
fine.
perspective. Even though you're newly in a relationship, I love that your perspective is if something goes wrong, that's not a fault of my own. That it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's true with life. I think whatever is meant to be will be, and I believe that wholeheartedly. So thank you for sharing that extra little snippet. I didn't mean for us to go into another rant, but so I will thank everybody again for being here, and thank Amy Jo and thank Ben. And I will say, Amy and Ben, have you guys had a good time?
Yeah.
Very, very.
Yeah,
I'd love to come back.
Oh, I would love to have you back.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll figure out some topics and we'll bring you back. You know what the show's about.
You and I can talk for hours.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So with that, we are out of here.
Thanks for listening to the Tri-State Time Machine, brought to you by Alex R. White, PLLC, at SueDistractedDriver.com. If you have a memory you want Vanessa to talk more about, just send her an email at tstm@mail.com or post a comment on the Tri-State Time Machine Facebook page. Did you like the episode? Be sure to share it with friends and family. It's the only way we can continue this fun work that we do. You can find a link in the show notes that you can use to share it. And be sure to let our sponsors know you like the podcast as well. Their contact information can be found in this episode's show notes.